What's up, guys? This is Dawson Lee here on the Launch Site podcast, where we talk to you all about different kinds of educational content, teacher content, tools and strategies and resources and stuff like that. Today it's me, Dawson Lee, and then my partner B. Cinder is on other podcast episodes. Today we're going to be looking at using board games in education, specifically in social studies, but this could be applied to any classroom, really. And so the problem that we have in social studies is that there's a difficulty understanding economic concepts. So I teach sixth grade social studies, and the economic standards, there's some in elementary schools, but definitely in sixth, seventh, and on up into high school and junior high. The economics is always something that kids struggle with. There's also some confusion over geography. You know, kids nowadays, I think they honestly stay inside. They lack spatial awareness. So geography, from like a small scale, but then also large scale geography is always a struggle. And then the classic issue in social studies is lack of engagement. You know, the stereotypical social studies teacher, history teacher just talks, blah, 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 blah. And so I try really, really hard to fight against that, so that that's not how my classroom is, because I know the kids, they're not listening if that kind of education is happening. So I have a need for interactive and hands-on learning, and so that's what I try to provide. And that's what the board game really gives the kids. So game-based learning, it's turning content into experience. So game-based learning is transformative. It's transforming that traditional education where it's not just lecture into something engaging for the kids. It's immersing them in this interactive experience where they're playing this game with their friends, with their classmates. And so when students engage with board games, they're actively participating. It's not just them sitting and listening to the teacher talking the whole entire time. They're actively engaging with the content. And so that obviously is going to enhance retention. It's going to better the students' understanding of the concept in general, but also the key vocabulary, because they're experiencing the vocabulary as they're learning it. And so what is game-based learning? So it's learning through structured play. It's not just, playing any kind of board game, but there's certain board games that have connections to content. Like in this case, Catan is the one that I'm going to be talking to you mostly about. So Catan, I'll talk more about it in a little bit, but these game-based learning or board games or whatever, it promotes active participation. It's turning learning into an engaging experience. Students are able to explore the concepts through play. It's going to better their understanding. It's going to increase retention. It obviously is more fun than them simply just listening to a teacher or reading in a textbook. And it's just a lively, interactive environment. And so some more of the benefits of game-based learning. So obviously it's hands-on. The kids they're active, they're moving. There's immediate feedback from the game, but then also from their fellow classmates and people that are playing. There's it's social. It's not just an individual thing, but most of these board games and Catan in general, or Catan especially, it's a very social game. The game very much so depends not on your individual success, but the success of the people around you, and you have to work with them. And so then that's going to lead to some critical thinking, and it's just a fun learning experience. So why Catan specifically? So Catan does a really good job of simulating a mini society where players are managing resources, they're trading strategically, they make decisions that reflect real economic principles. The game is going to increase student engagement, understanding of social studies concepts. So basically what the game has you do is you are your own mini society, like I said. And so there's going to be dice that's rolled, and you're going to have houses, or they call them settlements. You're going to have places around a map that basically when certain numbers are rolled, you get certain resources. And so the end goal of the game is to get 10 points. And so you get those points through different means, but you have to have those resources and use those resources. And to get those resources, you're going to trade and do other things. So lots of economic standards are covered through this one board game of Catan. So speaking more to the economics, so there's real economic principles in the game, like I was saying. So it's got supply and demand. There's scarcity with these resources, depending on which numbers are rolled and which ones aren't rolled. There's opportunity cost. Kids are going to decide to build something or to trade based on, what the value is there. And so even before they even know these vocabulary words, the definition, they've already lived and experienced these things by playing the game. Specialization, trade barriers. This one's really fun. So as the kids play the game, they kind of get a sense of how to trade, but then they also kind of get a sense of, all right, this person has 5 points, this person has 7 points, and there's also this element of you can steal from people, which makes it, even more fun because they can, spite each other and do different things. But through it all, they're having these trade relationships with their fellow classmates, and it's going to make them want to not trade with somebody if they stole from them. It's going to make them not want to trade with them or ask for a higher price if it looks like they have a lot of stuff or it looks like they're doing really well. So that leads to things like tariffs and quotas and embargoes and other kinds of vocabulary terms that hit our standards. But it's not just economics. So like I said, the game of Catan is it's a board, it's an island, and it's got different kinds of geography around the board, like wheat and wood and sheep and rock and mountains and different kind of stuff like that. And so the different kinds of terrain lead to different kinds of resources that the students can get. So students explore how the different kinds of terrain impacts the resource availability. And it's also going to help allow students to make connections between the impact geography has and population distribution. So there's a thing called a desert on there that doesn't have any resources, and people are not really going to want to live near the desert because it's not going to benefit them at all because there's no resources they're going to get from it. And so then that connection is made, oh, hey, people in real life probably not going to live in a place that doesn't have any resources. People are probably going to want to live where the resources are better, where there's a better chance of getting certain resources. And so then all of it comes together, and it's going to strengthen those critical thinking skills for sure. And so going back to the social aspect of the game, there's negotiation and collaboration. Students have the ability to, like I said, negotiate, to make alliances. They're going to collaborate with each other. It's going to develop those social skills. The trading honestly kind of acts as like a mini diplomatic decision, like they're their own leader or president. So there are some government standards kind of connections we could make. But it's going to emphasize collaboration. The people that do the best in the game are going to be the ones that are the best at staying on the good sides of their fellow game mates, not making them upset, and making good trades, making smart trades that's going to help them do better in the game. So it's going to encourage the critical thinking in the real world context. Like I said, collaboration versus specialization, independence. So they're going to have to find that balance between, how much should I be trading? How much should I be focusing just on myself? At what point is it a good idea to say no to a trade? That's what they kind of have to figure out for themselves. And so there's these academic skills that are developed. So critical thinking, we've already said, strategic thinking. So it's analyzing game scenarios. They're going to be able to figure out, okay, what did I do well? What did I not do well? This kind of ties in with a resource that I'll mention a little bit later. But they'll have that ability to reflect, especially after the game. They can kind of talk and have some questions and reflect on things that they decided to do in the game. They're going to be calculating their risks. They're going to be making informed decisions based on, the things that are happening. And honestly, there's also some math connections. So like with the probability of certain numbers being rolled with the dice and stuff like that. And so there's also some social emotional skills that are developed here. So there's resilience, adaptability, which honestly in today's day and age, that's not a very common thing. I feel like with all the games that kids play, the situations that they're put in, not a lot of kids are very comfortable with losing. They don't really know how to lose or how to not do well in a game and yet still have the grit to keep going. But that's what board games do. So the more board games a kid plays, it encourages them to build that emotional intelligence as they navigate wins and losses. It teaches them to be patient, teaches them to be adaptable, helps them develop those essential interpersonal skills through that collaborative play. It promotes discussion and engagement. It's a whole class activity. So the kids are going to be playing in individual groups, but the whole entire class will be playing together, which I'm going to be honest, if you're not careful, can make the classroom a little loud, but you set clear expectations and then it works itself out. So it transforms the lesson into a collaborative experience. It fosters discussion, teamwork, shared decision-making, and honestly, just a greater overall learning outcome. And so it connects the units. So again, I teach social studies, and so it really helps bridge the gap between geography, economics, and then leads into government and other standards that we cover. But board games in general, it just enhances the students' understanding of complex concepts because it shows that these things are connected. And then after the gameplay, discussions, like I said, reflection questions, you can explore power dynamics, resource distribution, decision-making. There's so many different things that it can lead to. And so, like I said, the whole aspect with critical thinking, you could have extension activities that go beyond just the board game. And so after the fact, students can explore how their gameplay connects to real-world scenarios, maybe things that have happened in history. They could describe what different kinds of situations that they saw in the game, and like I said, different things that it resembles. They can compare and contrast gameplay with different countries that they've studied. We've done that before, and the kids really enjoyed it. And you also have the ability to address concerns. So, the whole game-based learning idea, it's so much more than just playing a game. So like I've said many times, it's promoting engagement, it's promoting those critical thinking skills, the real skill development. And so there's lots of research that supports the effectiveness of game-based learning, how it demonstrates significant improvement in retention of the concepts, but also just participation, and just the kids enjoy it, which honestly makes a big difference. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't mention some of the issues, the challenges that can happen with game-based learning. So it does take time to teach the rules. In the case of Catan, it's not the easiest game in the world to play. There's different versions of the game, but the one that I teach the kids is the regular one. And so it does take me an entire class period of just teaching the rules, and then on top of that, kind of walking through the game with them that first time. But after the second or third time, they get the hang of it, and we play it lots of times throughout the school year, and they love it. You're going to have to manage the classroom well to make sure that the volume stays at an appropriate level. Make sure the kids are, managing their own, behavior and emotions correctly, because, some kids can, and they don't mean to, but they can, get a little too excited and emotional and get upset. So they're going to need your help for that. Game setup, obviously, if you want to have the kids, set it up, or if you want to have it already set up, just ready to go. Making sure that the students are engaged. I'd say that this game, my kids love like 99% of them, but there's always that one or two kids that, just for whatever reason, just doesn't. Maybe they have a bad memory of board games, I don't know. So finding out ways to keep those different kids engaged. And then just continuous assessment strategies. So not just playing the game, but also finding ways to assess the kids in some way. So big takeaway. Game-based learning is all about learning through experience. Students learn best when they experience knowledge firsthand. By engaging in hands-on activities, they develop these critical skills and understanding that honestly last way beyond the classroom. So that's it for my episode today. I really hope you enjoyed. So do us a favor, like, share, comment, subscribe to our podcast and our Substack. Follow us on social media at Launchsite, Dawson Lee Books, BSender, and please go visit our TPT store to see a free resource that I have that goes with this activity, as well as a bunch of other stuff. Georgia Milestones review, social studies activities, all kind of stuff. Till next time.